Welcome back, folks. My name is LastKnownMeal, and today we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077 Trauma Team comic. I actually realized I didn't really talk much about this. I talked a little bit about the upcoming anime, but there is a really cool article on multiversitycomics.com. It was actually sent by a member of the community and also a really good friend. So I'm going to leave his link to his website down below. He actually creates amazing fan-made maps for Cyberpunk 2077, outlaying the city itself, using the footage and stuff we know. But the article which came out on multiversitycomics.com is actually with a writer, Cullen Bunn, and the illustrator, Miguel Valderrama, who are actually working on this. And the reason why I'm making a video on this is because they lay out so many amazing things about this comic that I didn't think about before, especially about the universe of Cyberpunk, so let's jump into it. So the first thing that they asked to Cullen Bunn was, how would you both explain the general concept of this series without spoiling anything, elevator pitch or more if you prefer? And Cullen said this: Trauma Team is a squad of elite medical and rescue technicians, expertly equipped and heavily armed. Their clients pay for extraction and treatment when they get themselves into hot water. Nadia is a member of Trauma Team, but she has experienced a great deal of pain and suffering herself. In her last mission, she managed to save her patient, but the rest of her team ended up being slaughtered. Now she's been cleared out for active duty again, but the memories of that day haunt her, and she needs her head in the game. The patient they're going to rescue is pinned down by a ferocious gang of killers, trapped in a towering skyscraper turned death trap. Honestly, from this synopsis that they actually present here, it really reminds me of Dread. If you watch that film, the latest Dread which came out, where they actually go into that mega building and they get stuck there, and the reason why this whole skyscraper is so iconic for the cyberpunk subgenre is because besides skyscrapers you have mega buildings, and skyscrapers are very small compared to those buildings, and those mega buildings, as I talked about before, have their own organism. They're basically like their own organism. They have stores, jobs, and everything in it, so people don't really have to leave that place. But also in mega buildings on certain floors, you will find gangs. You will find people who are dealing something there, who are involved with weapons or various gangs in Night City. So I really wonder how they're going to pull that one off, but we've seen in the 48-minute demo at the beginning that V and Jackie do go into a building to find the scavengers, so I wouldn't be surprised if some of those floors in those buildings were actually equipped by scavengers or Maelstrom or something like that, depending on the mega building and structures we are in, where exactly on the map. So I really like this idea. I think that Dark Horse Comics can really do an amazing job on this, and so far the synopsis, as I said, reminds me of Judge Dredd, but it's really cool. It's insanely cool. Now, the next question I do want to talk about is this. Conversely, how do you see Cyberpunk 2077 Trauma Team as a part of Cyberpunk itself? From how it may interact with players of the upcoming video game to how it may shed a light on other aspects of a futuristic world common to the genre. And CB says this: to me, Trauma Team encapsulates the idea that life is cheap in Night City. Only those who can afford it get the assistance of Trauma Team. Everyone else can kick bricks. Talk about grim reality. The world so violent that a mega corporation has risen with the sole purpose of providing emergency medical assistance and evac when you get gunned down in the street. And there is enough business that they're flourishing. And Miguel Valderrama actually continues saying this: I think that this kind of little stories elevate the world of the game. It makes you think that something happened everywhere at any moment. And seeing the team, how they struggle with the system as everyone else, makes the dystopia even more believable. I like this idea. I like the idea they're taking here regarding the comic, which I'm going to talk about later. But they said that this is not actually something which is going to, add more to the lore in a sense of providing a bigger scope of the story. This is just another Cyberpunk story. And when you think about it, at any given moment in Night City, there is something going on, both good and bad. So what they're trying to really showcase here, and I really like the way they think here, is that Trauma Team is consisted of normal people who live there, who were actually employed in a corporation which only job is to extract people if they get gunned down. So they also have to, battle with that system. They also have to go back home. They also have to be careful when they're not on duty. I mean, they're trained, but at the same time, the Night City itself is so dangerous that anything can happen to them, like it was actually written here in the synopsis. Every single member of the trauma team, except Nadia, was actually gunned down during that mission. So things can happen, things can go bad, and I like how they try to portray both sides of it here in this comic. It's just another Cyberpunk story. They happen every single day. Even V's story is just another Cyberpunk story, but on a much bigger scale in a sense, because of course V's action could influence some things in the city. Not too huge, but they could still influence. Next up, Trauma Team International is a fixture in the world of Cyberpunk 2077, as people keeping an eye on the game's development have surmised, not to mention people who know the franchise lore. When does this story take place with regards to the rest? Did you have a set time period in mind relative to anything to happen in the upcoming game? Or did you just tell a story that fits somewhere else in the same world? And they say this. In my mind, the story takes place during the same timeline as the game. It's just another story playing out somewhere in the shadows, like I was saying. It has kind of evergreen quality as it is not bound to any events of the game. It's a story that readers can enjoy whether or not they play the game really. We just wanted to show off that there is more going on in Night City than you realize. If we do more stories, they might focus on different characters and different aspects of the Cyberpunk 2077 mythology. I love where they're going with this. It's just another story, anything can happen. And also they really outline some things for the future. Okay, so they do the Trauma Team comic and it's successful, people love it. Why not do more in the future? I wouldn't mind if we actually had some comics about fixers, about nomads, just stories from Cyberpunk. And I believe the more stories you have in this universe, it does elevate the lore of the game. I mean, the lore of the game is already so vast, but when you have those different things happening, in my opinion, it makes the entire universe feel more alive. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind to see Nadia somewhere as an Easter egg in Cyberpunk 2077 in the game, especially because they said, it's set during the same timeline. It's just another story. So on one side of the city, V could be doing something, and on the other, Nadia is probably saving people, etc., etc. But this is really cool. And also, the last thing, which actually was the reason why I made a video on this article, is this. Considering the very unusual position Trauma Team International has in comparison to other medical operatives in fiction, being essentially a medical private military corporation with no qualms about killing to get their client. The series is definitely not a standard fare for those expecting medics from other franchises. With a world as cynical as this, are there particular things you two are essentially excited about exploring in Trauma Team, from concepts to other mega corporations or anything else? And they say this. Our lead character, Nadia, offers up an interesting dichotomy. She is not necessarily a cynical person by Night City standards. She actually wants to help people. She wants to treat the sick and injured. But that isn't her job. Her job is to treat those who have paid for Trauma Team services. What happens if she's treating a client and sees an injured child nearby? She might want to do one thing, but the job and her teammates might have other goals. What happens if she's assigned to rescue and treat someone who doesn't deserve to be rescued? I think a lot of people will be able to understand being caught between what's right and what your job requires of you. Damn, this is good. Damn, this already makes Nadia a more interesting character. So to have someone in the dystopian future as it is, you know, the world of Cyberpunk, there are no good people. There are no good people. But to have a character which is ultimately a very good person, you know, her job as a medical professional, you know, is to rescue people. That's why she did that. That's why you have doctors and nurses today that go into this field because they want to help people. They want to help all people. But in this case, to have a corporation tell you, okay, you have to rescue this person, we don't care what happens around you. So if you have 20 people that are stopping you from getting that one man who paid us money, kill them all, get him, extract him out. That's the job. And this is a really cool concept that I never really thought about before. But yeah, this is the dark future. You either pay for services or you're going to be left out in the street. Don't expect the ambulance to come here and save you. That's not going to happen. And also they were asked in the end if there is anything you both would like readers or fans to know about the series. And they said this is really just the tip of the iceberg, the black iceberg, in terms of what we could do in this world. It's one story in one of the shadowy, out of the way corners of Night City. The potential for more stories, more characters, more action, more strife, more horror is unlimited, really. And it is really unlimited, especially when you have a universe of this size regarding the lore, because it had to be created that way. As a tabletop RPG, you create your stories, so if you don't have enough lore and source material to create those stories and adventures, it's not really that good. So that's why Mike Pondsmith and Artel Sorian did talk about everything from economy to police to how people get transport through the city, because you gotta invest people in that, especially in a tabletop RPG. Video game is a bit of a different thing, but the reason why Cyberpunk 2077 was able to be built this way is because of the huge lore they had before that. So yeah, it's definitely cool. I am very positive around this comic. Honestly, after this interview, it really shared a new perspective of what they actually think about when they create this. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. I do want to see more of Trauma Team. I do want to see more from Dark Horse Comics regarding the stories in the future. So I honestly do think that this is going to be something which is going to be a normal thing. It sells. It generates money for both Dark Horse Comics and CDPR, and if people read it, there is no reason to not create more. So yeah, thank you everyone so much for watching. This is gonna be everything for today. There is that Nvidia event, which is probably going to be done by the time this video is out, so if there is something new on that, I will definitely make a video around that. So thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Tell me down below what you think about this, and also, as I said, join us on our growing community on Twitter and Discord. And I did make a Patreon page. If you wanted an extra way to support the channel, you can do it through the link below. And huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out, and stay classy everyone. Bye bye.